The stars outside the warship flickered like dying candles, and Commander Jane Rivas stood still on the bridge of the HSS bunker light, her eyes locked on the enemy fleet approaching fast. The space around the planet Varelles was glowing red with warning signals. The enemy had come again. The Alyari Accord, a powerful group of alien species, was pushing hard into human space. For 10 long years, they had fought humanity. They thought humans were weak, messy, too emotional. But Jane had seen those emotions turn into strength. She had watched soldiers cry over lost friends, and then charge back into battle harder than ever. Still, the odds were now worse than ever. 30 enemy ships had just dropped out of hyperspace. The bunker light's shields were up, but they wouldn't last long against that kind of power. Her crew was young, scared, and tired, but Jane stood strong. "Get me status reports. Launch the interceptors. We hold this line or we die trying," she said. Then something unexpected happened. A soft, cheerful voice broke through the comms. It wasn't a cry for help or a warning. It was casual. "Need help in the shower, human?" "It's just normal here," the voice said, light and playful, like it was part of an alien commercial. The crew froze, confused. A few even laughed, but Jane didn't smile. Her instincts screamed. Nothing was random in wartime. She ordered a recon drone to check the source of the signal. It was coming from Callan 3, a nearby neutral planet known for being peaceful and strange. No wars, no weapons, just odd customs and glowing mountains. Jane had a feeling this wasn't just a silly message. It felt like bait, or maybe a clue. She gathered a small team and flew down to Callan 3. The landing was smooth. The planet was beautiful, with blue skies, green fields, and crystal towers that floated in the air. The people of Callan 3, called the Velthari, were tall, glowing, and wore no clothes. Not because of any rebellion, but simply because they didn't care. When Jane stepped out of the shuttle, the Velthari greeted her with warm smiles and open arms. One of them stepped forward, a female, tall and shining like the moon. Her name was Vela, and she looked at Jane like they had known each other forever. "You've come," she said, as if she had been waiting for her. "The shower offer still stands. It's tradition here. Warriors are welcomed with water and light." Jane was caught off guard. "We're in the middle of a war," she said sharply. "People are dying." Vela's tone changed. "That's exactly why you're here. Our world hides something old, a weapon left by those who came long before us, something built only for humans, something sleeping until the right one touches it." Jane stared at her, unsure if she should believe her. But Vela's eyes held truth. She told them that the weapon was buried beneath their world, in a temple filled with trials and defenses. It would only respond to a human full of desperation and hope. Someone like Jane. The silly message? It was just the Velthari way of reaching out. "You must survive the trial of the core," Vela said. "And if you do, everything will change." Jane didn't know if it was a trap or destiny. But deep in her gut, she felt it. This was what humanity had been waiting for. A turning point. Maybe even a chance to end the war. And so, with her team by her side, she stepped into the glowing temple, ready to face the unknown. The temple beneath Callan 3 was like nothing Jane had ever seen. It wasn't made of metal or stone, but glowing crystal that shifted color as they walked through it. The walls hummed with energy, as if the place was alive and watching them. Jane led her team deeper inside, 4 Marines, each armed, alert, and nervous. The air was warm, and strange patterns floated in the air like tiny lights. Then the floor shook. A massive door sealed behind them, cutting them off from the outside world. A voice echoed through the chamber, not Vela's, not human. It was ancient and powerful. speaking in a forgotten tongue that somehow made sense in Jane's mind. "Welcome, bearer of pain and hope. The trial begins." Before they could respond, the floor dropped beneath them, and they fell. Not down, but into a different space. When they landed, they were no longer together. Jane stood alone in a memory, a battlefield from her past. Her dead friend, Sergeant Meikle, stood in front of her, bleeding. "You left me," he said, eyes cold. Jane's hands shook. She knew it wasn't real, but it felt real. "You couldn't save me. And now you think you can save humanity?" The voice returned. "Face your fear. Break through your guilt." Jane didn't look away. She stepped forward and hugged the image of Meikle. "I didn't forget you. I fight because of you." The memory shattered like glass. At the same time, her Marines faced their own trials. One was trapped in a desert with no air, learning to control panic and survive with limited oxygen. Another was tested with visions of family begging them to leave the war, but each of them pushed through. The temple wasn't testing skill or strength, it was testing soul. When Jane and her team finally reunited in the heart of the temple, they were different. Stronger. The room before them held a floating core, a golden sphere pulsing with life. Vela appeared beside it, not through doors, but through light itself. "You passed," she said, voice filled with pride. "Now touch it." Jane stepped forward, and as her fingers touched the core, it dissolved into her skin. Her body glowed. Her mind was filled with knowledge, coordinates, star maps, battle tactics, and blueprints for a human-designed warship unlike anything they had ever built. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a living ship called the Phoenix, hidden in the heart of a nearby gas giant. But it needed a link, a human soul bonded through trial. Jane was the key. Above them, things were getting worse. The Al-Yari fleet had begun its attack on Callan 3, ignoring its neutrality. Beams of energy lit up the sky. Velthari cities burned. The bunker light fought hard in orbit but was losing ground. Jane and her team rushed back to the surface, where the Velthari had already begun the activation ritual. A beam of light shot from the temple into the sky, and space bent like ripples in water. The gas giant in the distance split open like an egg, and from its core rose a ship so large it made destroyers look like insects. The Phoenix roared to life. It didn't just move, it sang, speaking to Jane's mind in perfect sync. She and her team boarded through a glowing ramp of light, and the ship accepted them instantly. Its weapons were unlike anything seen. Plasma, lances that cut through enemy shields, anti-gravity hooks that ripped ships apart, and defense systems that bent space to block incoming fire. Jane sat in the command seat, and the Phoenix merged with her thoughts. "Let's end this," she whispered, and the ship moved like it had been waiting for her forever. Above, the Al-Yari fleet began to realize too late. This was no ordinary warship. This was human rage turned into technology. The Phoenix rose through the clouds like a god waking from deep sleep. As soon as it entered orbit, the Al-Yari fleet shifted formation, panicked. They had never seen this kind of ship before. No scanners could read it properly, and its movement made even time feel slower around it. Commander Jane Rivas, now fully linked with the Phoenix, felt everything the ship felt. She could see the enemy's strategy, predict their next move, and command her crew without speaking a single word. The first blast came from the Phoenix's front cannon, a beam of pure blue light that punched through 3 Al-Yari cruisers in one shot, turning them into silent fireballs. The bunker light's surviving ships saw this and rallied, pushing forward with new strength. The Phoenix led the charge. Jane guided it like it was her own body, dodging plasma, firing antimatter missiles, and using space itself as a weapon. It folded in and out of locations, appearing behind enemy ships before tearing them apart with energy blades. It was war, poetry in motion. But the Al-Yari weren't done yet. Their flagship, the voiceless tyrant, was still standing. It was twice the size of a dreadnought, black and spiked, powered by stolen suns and the pain of conquered worlds. Its captain, an ancient being named Selkor the Unyielding, had never known defeat. He saw Jane's ship and laughed, speaking in his native tongue. One flame cannot stop the night. But Jane heard him through the Phoenix's mind link. Her reply was simple. Then let's light the whole sky. The final battle was terrifying. The tyrant unleashed gravity bombs and distortion fields. It fired at the Phoenix with black hole projectiles meant to erase matter. The shield screamed. The hull cracked. Jane felt blood drip from her nose as her mind strained to stay linked with the ship. Her crew fought beside her, manually firing. Weapons when systems failed, yelling through smoke and sparks. They would not back down. Even as parts of the Phoenix burned, it pushed forward, powered by will more than tech. Then, at the edge of defeat, Jane saw it. A weak spot in the tyrant's core. A pulse delay. She knew she had one chance. She pushed all remaining power into one final strike. The Phoenix glowed white, brighter than a star, and launched itself forward like a spear. It cut through the tyrant, slicing its engine in two. There was silence. Then an explosion that lit up half the system. The voiceless tyrant was no more. The rest of the Alyari fleet, stunned and broken, fled into hyperspace. Humanity had won, not just with firepower, but with heart. But the cost was high. The Phoenix, after the final strike, began to shut down. The core had burned itself out. Jane slumped in the command chair, her body weak, her mind scarred. Vela appeared beside her once more, stepping through light. The ship is done, but its memory lives in you, she said softly. Jane stood, barely, and looked at the stars through the burning bridge window. Let it be a warning, she said. Never think humans break easy. Word of the battle spread across the galaxy. The Alyari Accord backed off. Peace talks began. The name Jane Rivas became legend. She had walked into a strange temple, faced ghosts of her past, and returned with fire in her veins. And the message that started it all, need help in the shower, human? It's just normal here, became a joke told by soldiers across space. But they all knew its meaning now. Help could come from anywhere. Even the weird, the peaceful, the unexpected. Especially from humans.